Yep, cool. That's live.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I've gone into
Yeah,
that.
there we go.
Right. So I think it's probably worth just starting again, Wes, if you don't mind.
It's not a problem. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Live demos or that way, whether it's on YouTube or you're talking with customers face to face. So it's always good.
Excellent.
Always
Thanks
good.
very much.
So, well, guys, thanks again for having us. Letting us jump into your user groups here and really letting the customers out there know that what we can do and what we can do for them and that we're here for them. As far as that, we help integrate that third party, that dirty word a lot of times, that third party patching or third party just having to deal with these guys on a day-to-day basis, that they're always causing headaches in our environments, that we have to fight those vulnerabilities and things like that. And hopefully what we can do is with Patch My PC is really show how easy we can help you make that whole process. And we will, like I said before, if you heard us on the Twitter stream as we were doing earlier, now we're on YouTube. We do work with both Wsus standalone in Config Manager and also within Intune. So we can leverage the environments. A lot of people are transitioning from one to another. We can help with that too, as far as moving some of those applications over for you. The biggest thing is that we never deploy anything. So you still have all that control. We help keep these applications up to date in your environments to where you can then send those things out there and make it really, really easy to do that work. So we'll jump in here real quick. What I normally do with a demonstration is I'll go and show you how simple it is to get our files, create the applications, and then publish that out there. We'll go through a beginning to end kind of setup, configure, and then deploy. And we'll kind of look at some things there as well. We can see on our main page here, just some general information. We do have a lot of things that we've got out there as far as some of our accomplishments and everything, as far as on our G2 list, some of our customers that we do have in there.
Sorry, Wes, I don't think you're sharing your screen at the moment.
Oh, it keeps kicking off because I shared it twice already. So what about now?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, because it looks like it's disappearing. So let me know if it does pop off there again, and we can kind of look at that. So basically, within here, there it just went again.
Yeah.
I may just share the entire screen and just see what that does.
This is let's
see if that one stays, because as soon as I click on it, okay, the other one it would kick off there. So basically, on our main page of our website here, we'll show a number of things in here as far as our G2 accomplishments, and then also some of our customers that we've got out there. We're over 11 million endpoints that we're supporting now. Over 3,400 enterprises that we do have as customers right now. So we get in there. We enjoy what we do. We like working with our customers. Always kind of joke around, but it's one of those things. We enjoy getting in there and helping our customers, just knowing that we don't have to work those after hours, late after hours, to help you out in those environments. But what we can show you is how easily we can make this and help automate a lot of these processes that you've got out there. So we'll just come in here real quick. What we normally do is always offer a free trial. The free trial is there so that you can get your hands on it. You don't necessarily have to just watch a video and see somebody else doing it. You can get it in your environment. You can get your hands on it. You can really get that feel of what the product can do for you. We offer it for 30 days by default. We could bump it up a little bit if you needed that. Sometimes you do have to take a trial more than just a 30-day process to get it into maybe a couple patch cycles. So what we can do from in here is then go and look at some of the other things that we've got. Now, within our product, when we do offer a trial, it's the full product. It's not a subset. It is every single application that we offer. We have for over 611 different applications right now as far as the products. Different, subset of vendors in here, maybe some unique product counts. There's really about 425, but we do have a lot of applications. Now, our biggest thing is if there is a specific piece of software that you guys may have in your environment, that's what we want you to let us know. We can go in here, request a new product, and where that will take you is out to our ideas page. Going out to our ideas page will allow you to go in and put in some information, and we can start running it through our test to see if it's something we could truly get in our environment and utilize. So what we can do is take a look at some of the criteria. Biggest thing, voting. We need to have some interest in it. The other things that we look at are basically within here, maybe how complex it is. Can it be digitally signed? That's a big important. And then we've got, maybe system level or either custom actions in there that we can look at as well. So just some few things in there. And once we have that, we do put everything out on a roadmap. So it's one of these things that we're always trying to offer and let everybody know exactly what we're working on. Even we can always say, even our competition, you come out here and see it. It's public knowledge. We're transparent. We can show some of the things we've got going out here. So you can always look at our roadmap and see what we've got. But our biggest thing is, you notice there's a lot of things that are customer related. We're always listening. We don't know everything. We're always wanting to find that next little thing that we need to add in our product so that we can help our customers more efficiently. So just keep that in mind. Now, as we go into here, we're going to do a multi environment type of install. We're going to install for Config Manager, but we're also going to install for Entune. We're going to kind of show you how easy it could be to transition from Config Manager over to Entune as well. So when we do this, we're going to need to install our publisher. So we'll go in here real quick to our download documentation page. I could come over here real quick and I could go to our documentation to pop that up, but let's just go here real quick and click on this guy. Now, once we get into here, we've got a few things that we can look at. We've got some install instructions. You're going to see how simple it is, but we have these things listed in here as well. Now, let's go up and we'll click on the little MSI. You can see it is a whopping 7.6 megs. We are pushing the data storage limits there. So let's just go and open this guy up. So we'll kick this one off. Now, our installer, our publisher itself that we're installing on this server, this has to be installed at the top level software update point for Config Manager. If we did an Entune standalone, it could really be a Windows 10 or 11 device. Personally, I like putting it on a server, but the publisher needs to be stored on somewhere on the Entune side of things so it can make a connection over into Entune. Now, on the Config Manager side of things, we're going to put it on that top level SUP because we're going to be communicating back and forth with Wsus and then communicating with Config Manager as well. So just keep that in mind. Now, we've got a few things in here. We'll go ahead and kick this guy off. You'll see how simple this little guy is. We'll come in and just let it roll through. Let me pull this over where it's a little bit easier to see. And we can go and install this. Just do our normal. You can come in here, like I said before, we could install this Entune standalone, but we want to come over here and we'll go and install this. We'll take the defaults. It's okay if you want to move that off to one of your data drives, to D or C or E or wherever you want to put that, perfectly fine. Then what we can do is we can come in here and just let it roll through. Fairly simple install. All right, so let's launch this guy right now and we'll see what it will do. Okay, so now we've got our publisher installed. Here's our GUI, nice little easy format to see. Now within here, we've got our license key. Of course, that's the license key for one of our demo labs. So if you copy it, it won't work. Well, we know who has that. So just keep that in mind. But some of the other things in here, once you put your license key, you've been presented that, we'll be able to validate that back and forth. We're always checking in to make sure the licenses are valid. You can also see some of the statistics that we'll give you in here as well. Now, we also can adjust some logging if you wanted to. We can go in here and change up some log retention. It's always good to have a number of versions of those logs just in case you need to see some historical data. We also have some nice little buttons that we've got put over here. I always call these bottom two my cheat buttons for the simple fact of it's easy to get to those logs just by clicking on that. We even have a feature where we've got a collect logs button that will go in and place those logs in wherever location that you decide to put that. In case you have to put in a support ticket, you can grab those logs and just import that over. Those will be all the logs we would need from the server side in a support issue. Now, here's our biggie. And this is one of those decisions a lot of companies, it takes a little bit of time to decide which way do I really want to go with this as far as our certificate. You know, it's a code signing cert. It's required for Wsus when those non-Microsoft updates need to be going over into Wsus. So a lot of companies will, decide maybe they want to import a certificate from their certificate authority. It's a code signing cert. It's a simple template out there. Maybe they want to just generate one using our tool. Well, I like going the easy route. Let Config Manager do as much as possible. So we can come over here real quick and we'll go up and open our Config Manager console. If I can get it open today, here we go. And we'll come down to our, let me make this a little bit bigger here. And then I'll come over here and then we'll go in to our administration. We'll just let Config Manager, we'll turn it on over here and we'll let Config Manager go ahead and manage this guy. So we'll come in, we'll go into our components, and we'll go to our software update point. Once that pops up, we're going to go turn on third-party patching, and we'll come in here and just let that guy. So we'll just go ahead and click OK. Do one more nice little action in here as we'll come up. We'll go into our software updates, and we'll go ahead and trigger a sup sync in here. We'll just do it from the easy way. Once we do that, there will be one other thing that you'll need to do. While we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll open up Wsus Manager log so we can kind of watch this guy as it's working. So it's going to start running. It's probably going to go pretty fast, and it did. It's not going to go this fast in your environment, so just keep that in mind. But we do have a certificate created. You will need to go in and do an additional step. You will need to go and turn on third-party patching for your clients. And we're going to let Config Manager push that guy out there. So we're going to have this sitting in here. Here's our little part that we need to enable. Once you have that, Config Manager is going to manage that certificate for you, start doing all that work. And then what we'll do in here as well is just go in and hit show certificate. Now we are ready. So once we get in here, all we have to do now is start picking some updates that we want to go and deploy. So we'll have these guys live in there. So we'll minimize this for right now and just talk directly with our publisher over in our updates tab. Now, we've got a big list. I want to try to make that easy for you. You know, it's 611 different applications, different versions of those. You know, there's a lot of stuff you could pick. You may know some things at the top of your list. You want to go ahead and enable those. Perfectly fine. You may even want to come in here and utilize our little database scan. Now, what this does, this looks at your hardware inventory. We're not doing anything extra new. All we're doing is scanning that information that you've already pulled in. Now, you pull this information in basically from your inventory. We're going to look at those 4 or 5 different views out there. We can look at the server name, put in the database name itself. We can even limit this off to a specific collection. Now, once we do that, we'll go and query that, and we're going to pull in all that information that you've already collected. We're going to compare it with things that we have in our catalog. And then from there, we'll go in there and we'll tell you what we can patch for you. So it's not a compliance list. It's just a list of items that we can patch for you that are in your environment. So we'll do our normals. We'll pick a few of these guys to make it kind of speedy. We'll pick a few of the, these are ones that a lot of people have to deal with all the time. Good old Google. And we'll do a few of these things in here as well. Let's come in here and we'll pick Notepad++. Now, once we get in here, I do have some customers that will go and just select every single thing out there. And that is perfectly fine. You may not want to do that for the simple fact that there's a lot of these applications that are installed on one device. You may not want to manage that. So where we can help with that is we can come up and we can check these 2 boxes at the very top. Then we can say, what's our patchable number? Our patchable number may be if an application is installed on 5 or more devices, then we want to start managing that. Maybe not 1 and 2, that could be test devices. 5 or more could be production. So what we can do at this point is that we've set our auto enable. We've got it to set to 5. Now, if we set it to 5, we can also know that every time that our publishing service syncs, which is right up here, it's going to sync on a daily basis by default. You can set it whenever, but whenever it syncs, it checks back with Patch My PC to see if there's anything new. It then brings in those newest bits based on the things I have selected. It will start uploading those as far as those newest files coming in. If I have these 2 options over here set, then it will see that I have the auto enable feature turned on and I've got it set to 5. What it will do at that point in time, we'll start pulling those in. Anything that's installed on 5 or more devices, it sees that and it will start publishing it as an update or as an application in your Config Manager environment. So that was a really good way to start automating your whole process and truly making this a set and forget type of program. So just keep that in mind. It's a really good feature there that's really helpful, and a lot of customers use that as we have it set right now. You can export that big list of everything we have found in your environment. So just keep that in mind. It's a really good thing to have that list out there, especially if you need to compare it with, say, your firewall list or whatever that we've got out there. All right, so we'll go ahead and hit OK. We've got a few applications we've enabled there. So what we want to do is come over here and take a look at how do we want to move forward with all these applications that we're going to create. Do we want to have maybe a standard? Have a standard of everything's going to have a certain setting. And then after that, I could change it at the individual app. So let's do this. Let's take it from the top. We'll come up to all products. And from the all products tab, we give you some options that you can do. Right click on the all products, and you'll see all of these different actions that we can do. So maybe turn on manage install logging. Now this is that log. If the vendor's installer allows logging, that's where we can turn this on from in here. So this will create it in specific directory. We can also have verbose. We can prefix it with a computer name just in case you need to copy that off somewhere. So just keep that in mind. It's a good feature there as well. Now, a few of these other things, they are based on that installer code also. Disable self-updater. We do tell you which ones you can do that on, but you could set it at the top very simply. We'll set that, and then we'll also say turn off the desktop shortcut there. We'll have that where it deletes that guy also. So we'll go ahead and click yes. Now, we've got the majority of things done there, but let me show you one more. Now, this is one that's, it's one that doesn't necessarily need to be at the top level, but I'll show you in our demo here just so it makes it easier for the demonstration. Now, this specific one here is pretty interesting. So this little guy is a way to turn off a process that's running so that you can install an application or an update. There are some apps out there. I want to say that we've noticed about 15 or 16 of those different apps out there that truly need to be shut down. Notepad++ is one. That's why I have it selected. And from in there, you would need to kill the process before you started to try to install it, or it would throw an error. So you could do it one of a couple ways. You could perform it. If you get an error, you would know that. That's one way to discover which ones need that as well. Just let that be set at the top. Or you can have it where it would auto close the conflicting process. Now, we know that that one probably would make a little bit of a confusion and some hysterics if you got applications shutting down and people may be sending you emails saying, why are you doing this? So we want to do it the easier way. You could try to skip it. Sometimes that doesn't really work as well as you wanted it to. So we'll give the option to notify that end user. Let them have some power. Let them know that, okay, we've got something that's needing to be installed. Here's your notification. Choose when you want to install it and then kind of go from there. So you can either leave it at the 5 minutes, or we can do the config manager update max runtime that you have set. You could even come in and we can prevent that end user from reopening that application once we have it shut down. We can come in and give them some other options as far as our notification policy. So it's one of those things we want to look at, say we'll either discard the notification, we can show it, which is the one I like setting in here, or we can come in there and we could even show the notification if the deferral policy is reached. Now, I like always having it shown. That way there's no surprises. They know where it's coming from, and they can just kind of go from there. And we'll come in here and we can give them a number of times that we want to allow them to defer. We can push it up to maybe 10 or so, but I like setting it to around 2 or 3. And maybe I'm a stickler, I don't know. But these are updates. They're important. We need to get these out. That could possibly push it out 3 days. So think on that. It's going to allow the end user to have a little control, but not too much control. And then we can have in there to either defer the install on behalf of the user. Kind of defeats its purpose, in my opinion. But we can come in there and close the application and perform the update, which is the way I normally have it set. Now, as we have that set there, it's really interesting to see that we can come in here and we can adjust some things globally. So we have a number of things out there, the way you want to really communicate to your end user. So I can come in there and we can say, we'll come out there, we'll set a custom banner. I think I may have one here set. We've got a few of these that we could put in there. Makes it really easy to do all this as well. But the biggest thing is making it to where we can have something maybe specific to the end user. So maybe let's see how this one looks. Let's see how it stretches out. So we can come in here and we can put in your community information here, or you can put in your company name. If I can spell today, it may be helpful. All right. And then once you have that, then what you would do from this point is you would have a pop-up. Now, the pop-up we'll have over there is basically letting your customers know who this is coming from, what application is causing it, how much time you have left, and then the ability to either snooze it or close and update that. Now, Another cool feature is you can come in here and we can set it to a select language. So we'll come into add remove, and then we could pick English. If you had another OS language that you're using, you could do it in there as well. And then what you could do is you can have the different features. We'll just do English just to start with, and then we'll cancel out of that. You can have it to where it's the default. You could have things here. We can have a few of these other guys in here and see that as well. Is it fuzzy, Adam? Or is it just the stream itself? All right, we'll go through here and we'll see how clear we can make that. So just some of these other things. All right, so let's go in here real quick, and we'll go ahead and we'll just go to our default. We'll just cancel out of that, make sure that's set, and we'll come back over here. Make sure, I'm gonna go ahead and set this guy back here. We'll go ahead and have that. And then we'll just we'll have fun. We'll just do patch my PC on this one. All right, we'll come in there and we'll just have that set. All right, so we've got that guy set there as well. Now, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. I think that's about the same, isn't it, guys? All right, we'll see if we can help you guys out and get that a little bit better there. All right, so once we've got this guy set, we've got our applications that we want to create updates for. And when we come in here, we can go look at the individual applications themselves. So as we come in here, maybe we want to go and make some right-click options from this specific application. So in here, we do have some options. The first one, we're always trying to be helpful. We're always trying to give you that information on how to use that specific piece of the software. So we can take you out to our website, and basically our knowledge base will let you know which right-click options you do have in there and how to use these. So very helpful little bits in here also. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at some of those. We also have the ability to go out and see, not only see that we're pushing out Google Chrome x64, but maybe Google Chrome, which version it's going to pull up. It's going to take a minute for it to pull up, but once it does that, we'll see everything out here. So let's just take a look. Version 97. We're going to have an MSI. Here's the size, and then also our default command lines that we're putting in there and running with that as well. Also have basically our URL, and then we even have our virus total scans that will show in here also. So this is what we're doing. We're checking all these apps before we start rolling those out because we don't host the binaries. We'll go into that a little bit more in detail. And once we have that done, then what we can do is go in there and look at some more customizations. So if we look at our customizations, we can see that we do have the ability to go in and put an MST if we did have one of those. We could come out here and we can go in and maybe do some command lines extra. If it did support it, we can do those as well. Our biggest thing is coming in here and going in and utilizing our pre and post scripting. This will open up the doors to so many more customizations there. Pre-scripts really could be anything. Maybe I'm going to put a certificate on the device beforehand. Maybe I need to do an uninstall ahead of time. Or maybe just come in for our postscript. We could just change up a homepage. We do support all your modern scripting languages there that we can go in there and help you install these. Now, anything that you're doing within here or with the update itself will allow these files to get copied down to the device. Since we don't have an agent out on any of your clients, we only have a single piece of software that's installed, which is this publisher right here. Everything that's done is done from that package that's coming down to the device via either a cab file from a update or just the application file sitting in Ccm Cache. So everything is getting stored in there, and I can kind of show that once we get in there and start seeing this as well. So we have a lot of information out there. All right, so we'll go ahead and click on this. Once we have this going, we can kind of come in here, and then we can go in there and we can hit apply. And once we have that guy set, we've got one more thing that I like talking about, and we'll come in here and take a look at this little guy. So this little icon over here is our Cve Import Wizard. This is a helpful little tool in case you happen to have those nice little reports that get brought over from security or whoever's running vulnerability scanners. And they tell you what all is vulnerable on your network, and they let you know that, hey, these are the things you've got to work on. And then you can go in there and look at, see, okay, well, here's a big list of CVEs that I need to work on. So what I'll do is I'll just take all those CVEs, dump them into a CSV file somewhere, And then what I can do is browse out to those, and then I can import those in to where I can really see what they're associated with in our catalog. So what we can do from there is just import these guys in and then see how they relate to things that are in our catalog. Now, not necessarily in your environment, but in our catalog. So we've got a number of things. A lot of things aren't available. So they may be things that we're not patching right now, or there may be some of these other ones from that list. But we can see that we've got a lot of things out here that we could take a look at. So we can just expand these guys and look and see, well, I've got some Oracle stuff I need to work on, some Google, and then some Edge. So maybe if we started looking at it and digging into these, I could technically go in and say, select all available and just pull in everything. Some people do that. Some people do that, and we have to help clean up a lot of stuff, because the reason why, there's a lot of things that could be on items that you don't want to support. So maybe we're only supporting the 64-bit, and then the x86 might be the same CVE. So you would import this if you just went in and hit select all and import selected patches. It takes all of that information, imports it over into Wsus, and then you have these patches sitting out there in Wsus for maybe items that you don't want to support. So real easy to do. I would always unselect and then just pick the ones that you want and utilize that. So a really helpful tool. We do have some things out there to where you can go out to our website and you can see. I personally like using it after the fact and coming in and just using it to see which ones I have published and making sure that I've got all the bases covered from in there as well. So that is another helpful way to use that also. All right, so let's hit close. We'll just show you that little bit. We've got a few apps that we've got created here. So now we've got our updates selected. So we've got our 4 updates. And we're going to move over to create some Config Manager applications real quick. We can do it very easily. We just have to do a few little setup steps. Now we'll come up here to our first one. Now in our environment here, it's all on the same box. So our SMS provider would be our local host. If this is on a remote server, of course, you would need to put your provider information there. Make a connection. We'll need to make a connection over there. Sometimes we have to adjust some permissions to get that connection, because what you're going to be doing on that remote server is communicating back to Config Manager and being able to create those applications and also do subsyncs in there as well. So just keep that in mind. Now, if we come in here, we can take a look. We need to make a connection to our source folder. The source folder is where you're creating all your application source files, where you're going to store all of those. So that's basically what you can do from in here. Our first 3 little steps we have set by default. The first one, allow those applications to be installed via a task sequence. That's that little checkbox that I used to always forget once I did an application. If I was flying through it, trying to do it real quick manually, I would always forget that. So I'm glad we've got that set. The second's allow the clients to use a distribution point from the site's default boundary group. That's another one set by default. And then the last one set by default would be to code sign that PowerShell detection script, when you're with the code signing cert that you're rolling out to all your clients. So that's a helpful little bit there, and make sure that that code signing cert is is applied onto that PowerShell script that we're going to be pushing out there for all your applications. Now, these last 3 here, I normally only set that when I'm talking with people, because I like putting everything into a specific location. So we have a folder already created over here in the Config Manager console. And what we can do is go and see where we've got that guy living. So we can come up here to our software library. We'll look at this one. And then from in here, we can see there's our Patch My PC folder. Nothing created yet, but we'll put everybody in that location in the future. So we've got that guy set. We could make things go into a smaller folder if we wanted to, but that's just where we're going to have everybody live right now. We do have 2 options in here that I normally don't set, but there are needs for this at times. Sometimes you may have variables set in a task sequence that maybe you just want to have the application name, not the application name and version. You could use this option in here. We can also use to, when a new version of the application is released, to delay it a few days. You could have that option as well. So there's a few other things you can have set. Now, the next section is really kind of the biggie. And everybody's got their own thoughts on this. Personally, I like going and having it to where when there is an application update available for an application that I've already got published in Config Manager, how do I want it to act? Do I want it to create a brand new application? Personally, I do. That way I can control a little bit better. I can have it to where it's going to install when I say it's going to install, and not update in place in the Config Manager console and then take any deployments that were already assigned on the previous application and go ahead and start rolling those out. There may be some applications you can do that on. Personally, I like setting it to this way and then retaining a few apps in there. That way I've got a fallback method. Now we can also delete the application even if there has a deployment. Now we don't touch the task sequences. Any applications are in task sequence with this step, so just keep that in mind. That won't affect those at all. Now our next little section here. Now let me go back. This little section, we can set this per application if we need to. I'll show you how to do it in just a moment. But right now we want to have a standard. We're going to set this at the top and then we can change it down below for those specific, those one-off apps that we can just let update without any risk. Now, our last thing here really to start talking about would be our content distribution. Now, once we create applications, we want to distribute that content out there for you. By default, we're going to push it out there to all your DPs. Now, you could put in a DP group. If you have things like cloud management gateways, it does cost a little bit more. You may want to segment that off to where maybe that's off on its own little group. And then you're just pushing out what needs to go out there just because of cost. So you can specify those a little bit different that way as well. Now, one last thing in here, Config Manager, Application Manager. We don't have anything created yet. I'll come back and show you that in a moment, but that's just a helpful little tool that we can take a look at. Now, let's go in here, click OK. Now it is wide open. I can select anything I want to in here. We want to make things easier. Remember, that's the whole theme of this, making your job a lot easier. Or if you're talking with management, making your job more efficient, making you more efficient your job, not easier. They make you more stuff to do there. So we can come in here. We'll go and look at, say, our database scan. I could come and do the same exact thing again, pick all the items that I want to have in here. We could pull all these guys down. But what we really want to do is make it easier. So we'll just come up here. We'll click our little copy button. Now what this is going to do is bring in everything that I've already done, all that work and all those customizations that I did on the Updates tab, and bringing those over into the Config Manager Apps world. So not only am I going to have an update that I can push out that's a certain version, but I'm also going to have the application created as well with the same exact version. Now, the reason why I do that personally is because if you're pushing out an update and it goes bad, what do you have to do? You need to rush to make an uninstall. Well, if you've created an application, the application is going to have an uninstall. Some even have a repair, but you've always got a way to take that off of that machine and then possibly based on the retention, get it? You see where I'm going with this? Based on the retention, I can roll out an old version, keep my users up and going until that newest version of that application gets fixed and gets rolled out. So every now and then that happens. You always need to have that fallback method, making sure that you can keep your end users up and working the way they need to and keep their workflows going. So we've got those things set. We brought over everything over from our Updates tab. We get a lot of the same options, but we get a few more in here, the more application centric. So let's go down to one of these applications and see. So from in here, we'll go and look at Google itself. We've got those same actions. We've got a few other requirements that we could put in here with our publisher. We can come in, do some modifications. We can manage the categories if we wanted to. I like doing these. We can do these guys, have it company-wide, do it browsers, just put a few categories on there. I could come in here if I wanted to. I had some security scopes. I could have that set in there as well. Maybe I want to come in here and even change up the user experience. Maybe, I don't normally mess with this too much, but every now and then you need to change on the requirement as far as the logins. You may have to have an app where somebody is logged on at that time so they can install. So you just never know. You may have to change up a few things. All right, we'll go ahead and close that guy out. Let's look at a few more things that you can do in here. Now, some interesting things in here is if you wanted to go in and change up the way this app is shown to your end users, that's where you can come in and you can change up the localized application name. We could even change the icon if we needed to. So it gives you some options. And just remember, anything that I'm setting within the publisher stays on the application where I've set it until I come in and change it. It's not something where there's a new application comes out, it wipes everything. This all stays exactly the way I have it set right there. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's look at a few other things in here. Matter of fact, let's go over to this little guy. We'll look at our Igor, good old 7-zip. We like picking on him a good bit. But what we can do in here is maybe because there's 2 different versions out there, let's put that in another folder. Let's make it where it's easier to find 7-zip. So I can come in here. I've already got a folder set up here, but I could come in there and I can go, all right, let's just add another folder. So I'd have some options. And then maybe we want to change this one. Maybe 7-zip's not one of those apps that's going to cause an issue. So we want to change this guy to where we can go and say, all right, let's just update that existing application in place, and we can override, and we won't keep any extra copies. We'll just let it go. We're just going to have one version sitting out there. Any deployments that are set on that, it's going to take it and go to the next version whenever it comes out there. So we can have that set. So you can set those separately or from the very top at the options tab. So it makes it really easy to customize each one of those the way you want it to go out. All right, so we've got these guys set. Now, I have created 4 updates, and I have created 4 applications in Config Manager very easily. Now you say, hey, you do that all the time. It is really that easy. Once you start doing a test, you will see that there as well. So once we go in here, we can take a look and see that now we want to step over to the cloud. Because we've got that option in there, we'll show you how to make this really, really easy. So once we get over here, let me pull this guy over here, and we'll take a look at our settings. So within Entune, what we'll need to do to make this setting for you is go out there. We'll enable this. We're going to make a connection. So we can come over here, and within our publisher, we'll need to input a little bit of information. So we'll come up to start with. We'll go into Azure AD. Once we go into Azure AD, we're going to need to make that connection. So we're going to create an app registration in Azure AD. So once we create that new app registration, we can come over there, find our app. We'll go out there. We can see we've got our app ID, place our ID up there, our secret. We're going to go and create a good old secret. We all know, if we've messed with this before, if you ever get off this page, guess what disappears where you can't copy it anymore? The value, which is what we need over here. Once we have that, we can come up here and we can go say test. Once we hit test, we've got a connection. We don't have permissions. So I have permissions. I've already got some things set, but you'll see how it pops up. You would have a bunch of X's in there. It would show which permissions you need, and it would say these are not there. Of course, mine show that they're there. So what we can come in here is go in there and take a look at how to set up these permissions. So here really quick, we can go in there and say add permission. We're going to give Microsoft Graph an application type of a permission. 5 of those is which, 4 of them are going to be the device management apps is the first one. We're going to give read and write. The device management, manage devices, read all. We're going to give the device management RBAC. We're going to give it read all as well. And what the RBAC and the service configure, they're more or less on the individual apps. The RBAC is basically helping you with security scopes. The 4th, service config, is when you're starting to move over to those autopilot runs and you're doing the enrollment status page profiles. That's what these help out with. But the first 2 is basically allowing our publisher to create applications in Entune for you. And then the second is going to allow us to basically see that inventory and kind of help you see which ones we can help you patch with. Now, we can also see that we've got a group member one sitting down here at the bottom. Well, that helps us to see those Azure AD groups. And when you're starting to make those assignments out there, help you point those groups into those specific assignments. So just keep that in mind. And once you have that done, that's really all that you have to set as far as to have that initial setup there. You can customize a little bit more. We do have a few things in here that we can look at. So within here, we've got the ability to update the enrollment status page associations with anything new. We could copy or delete the assignments from those previously created applications or updates. But we also have it to where you can update the application dependencies from previously created applications when an updated application is created. So that's one of our newest features in there. And then we have the ability to do these other 2. We're getting back to that retention again, not keeping every single copy of those versions of those applications we've had out there, but we can just keep maybe 2 and make that really easy. So once we have that set, then we can come over here and then we can go and say, okay. And at that point, we're ready to start picking things. Well,
is there any chance, Wes, just before you go on to your next bit, are you able to zoom in a little bit for the browser? I think people online are just struggling to see a little bit.
Yeah, that's It's not the browser though. That's the remote desktop. Let me try to get in here a little bit more. Let me see if we can pull this in here a little bit to where it kind of associates that a little bit more. Now that made it a little bit smaller. Let me see if we can go back over into try to reshare it. So open up a little bit bigger there. If it disappears again.
Yeah, then it disappears.
All right, let me try it again. Let's just do this. Yeah, that is really about it. Let's see if we can. Yeah, it is fuzzy. I can see that. Yeah, because I'm just sharing out this whole screen. Let's see if I can pull it in and make it a little bit better. Maybe I'll resize it to where it can see it. Does that help it at all or no? It's still fuzzy, and it's just the whole screen itself is fuzzy. Yeah, because if I'm looking at it for mine, yeah, that's all it is. Yep. Let me do this. Get out where I'm not seeing that. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't think it's yeah, it's just fuzzy when I'm looking at the screen itself, the whole screen, even the little icons over there are fuzzy out there as well. So I think it may just be in the recording itself or from the way the stream is happening.
Okay.
Let me try to pull that over a little bit and see. All right. So where were we? Okay. We'll go back over here and we'll set this guy up. So we can come in here real quick and we can see that we've got these guys. We've got everything, all the permissions that we need. Well, the one last thing that we want to look at in here, once we have that connection, we can go in there and start finding some of those applications that we want to publish. So we can do it a couple ways. We can do it in here. We can kind of look for those items. We'll use our little database scan here that's going to go out and look at the inventory and kind of connect over there. We can then query this, and then we can see those applications. Now, this is going to pull up Win32 applications that were installed within MSI. We can do the same things. I can come and pick some of these guys, or I can come in and do the auto publishing rules. Makes that really easy. You can go in and choose some of those. But what we're going to do is just bring everything from our config manager environment. We're going to bring it over into Entune real quick and make that whole process easier. So as you start your transition, maybe from config manager over into Entune, we can help with that. You know, it's just one of those things as far as everything that I'm already publishing out here, I can easily bring everything over just using that same copy feature. So everything's coming from my updates tab and coming over there. So we can see that. We can see that we've got a lot of different options that I could have set. So we'll look at a few of these real quick once we go into our little cloud icon. And what I want to do is kind of talk real quick as far as the differences from what we have out here. Now, by default, when you're creating an application in Entune, a Win32 application, that application can do updates. It can push out to everybody, and it can just install as an update, or it can install as a brand new app. Well, we build in logic to what we call the updates, and we build in logic to where it's only installed where it's needed. So you could truly push this update, this file out to a very large group of machines, and it only installs where it's needed. So if you pushed out the Entune app to everybody, everybody's going to get the app. If you pushed out the Entune update out to everybody, only the people that have the application that is needing to be updated will get that update. So just keep that in mind. That's the difference between those two. It makes it really easy to kind of separate those off. So I'll show you how to set those up in just a moment. So we'll come in here. We'll look at a few things. I want to show you one more little guy before we start talking about creating some of these applications. This is a helpful little tool that is one of those that you may even start using it in your normal work outside of Patch My PC packages that get created. You may just use it for those Win32 applications that you have out there that you manually created. So you can come in and use this little tool to go in and go publish and show all the Win32 applications, or just show the Patch My PC ones. And you can come in here real quick and you can take a look at each one of these. You can find out all the information that you're needing to look at some of these. And then what we can do is just come in and we can right click on this guy. Now I can come over here and say view an endpoint portal. And then it's going to pull that up over in the window with the endpoint portal. So I can do everything from right here instead of having to live my life over in this window as well. So I can come over and I can do a few things here. Maybe I want to manage assignments for this specific one. We'll see that we've got the ability to do some assignments over here. We'll click a few and we'll have some of those guys going out to everybody, have that set. And then I can even go and customize these assignments directly from here. I don't have to do it over in the portal. So I can come over and we'll set all company. We're going to have all company go out. We'll have it going out. Maybe we'll just say on the 25th. We can have HR team. We're going to have that excluded. And then maybe we can have sales team. They'll just get it immediately so they can do the testing because maybe it's one of their applications they need. Once we have that set, we can easily go in, select this guy. And then what we can do from there is go and check once it gives okay. We can see how this application has gone and updated. So we'll just go and look at this guy real quick. Let that refresh, pull back up. And then from in here, we can go and see all this stuff is done. Let's see if I can pull it up a little bit more. Now I've got all my assignments sitting out there very easily. Now, one other fun thing that I always like doing. Do you have a question, Simon?
Yeah, hi, where's this, Andy? I don't know if you're going to cover this, right? But I did notice some really kind of cool bits in relation to reporting when you're in Intune, and I was wondering the data that is used for that reporting, because I think I saw on your website there's some Power BI reports. Is that using data purely from Intune, or is that something that's generated from PatchMyPC?
No, it's just stuff that generated via graph from Intune itself.
It is graph, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Cool. All right. So this information that we've got out here, we basically have all those applications, and now we're going to clean this up a little bit, make it easier for us to do our demonstration. So we'll just go out and delete everybody. But in case you needed to do a mass deletion, you can come in there and do that. And then what you can do is come in there and we'll just go refresh. And now everything we can start over again. So once we do that, we'll come over here and we'll get back over here and start working within PatchMyPC. Yeah, guys, I am sorry. I don't know why it's totally, that whole screen is just blurry as it can be. So I don't know, it may just be something in the recording. All right. So once we get in here, we can see that we've got all these applications. We brought everything over with us. We want to go in there and we want to make some assignments from what we have down here. So we've got it to where maybe we want to set assignments. I don't necessarily want to do this at the top level, but I will do it in our demo to make it easier. We'll show that we're just going to push these assignments out to everybody. We'll set it all users. And then from here, we can come in here and set a few other things. So now we want to go maybe do categories. Maybe I want to do that from the top level. So I can come in here, set these guys to be applications, have them showing up in our company portal in a certain way. We can also come in here and we can say naming convention. Maybe I want to name these a certain way. So we can come in here and we can say product name version. The good thing about this is if I'm creating applications on my own in Intune, maybe I want to designate this with a different name to where I can really search very easily for these apps and make sure that they're done a certain way. So I can come in here, we'll go PatchMyPC, and we'll just call these apps. Now your end user will see this, so you might want to name it something with your naming convention in there so they can really see it. But that way you can just look for apps and you would be able to find that as well. All right, so we've got those things set. We've got our applications that got carried over here as well. We see that we've got some of these. Now, once we get in here, we did bring over that same script that we showed earlier. We've got all that. We've got our assignments set to go on these guys. We've got a few things, but we get a few more options. So if we want to do enrollment status page profiles, of course, this really needs to be a required assignment. This is not going to work in our situation, but you could do it from here. We could come in here and we can set a few other things. Scope tags. If you had a scope tag set up, we could do that as well for security. And then we can also come in there. The really helpful bit is if you want to utilize the little scan tool that we've got over here in our database and allow it to auto enable things. And this works on both Config Manager and Intune. But if you wanted to enable that, but then you find a piece of software that you don't want to have in your environment, you don't want to update it, you could easily come in and you can exclude that from being published. And you can exclude that from being brought in. So that's another helpful little tool that you can do in there as well. All right, so we'll go ahead and click apply there. We've got everything set. Let's come over and we'll do our Intune updates. All we have to do is check that box. It will set everything. It copies everything that I've done from the application tab there, or the Intune apps. And then what I want to do is just copy. Now, when I copy from this location, I'm copying everything from the Intune apps tab over to my Intune updates. And the reason why is that you can turn off these two tabs. And normally we would do everything from our updates and bring it all over. But since you can turn these off, we want to copy from our apps over to our Intune updates. So within here, we can have a few more bits of information that we might need to change up a little bit. Naming convention. We don't want to call everything an app like I did before. We'll come in here and we'll just call all these updates. And then one last thing that we can do in there that did not copy over, we noticed that our assignments did not copy over. So we'll come down to the one that we want to push out. And we can see that Notepad++ is out there and we want to have that guy pushed out there. So let's just do this. We'll have that. We'll set it required. Now, technically, you could come into the Intune portal. You can create an available assignment for this application. We don't want you doing it for the simple fact of if you push an update out to your company portal as available, your end users would click on it. And if they did not have the application, it would generate a support call to you. And we're just trying to save you that headache. So that's basically why we have this set here. But technically, you could do it inside Intune itself if you want to do that. But via our publisher, this is the way we have it set. All right, so we've got that guy set. Now, all in a short matter of time, we have created updates, config manager applications, Intune applications, and Intune updates. So from here, how do you get the process started? Well, we have it set to go and run our sync schedule or sync on a specific schedule once a day. I personally like leaving it once a day. Most of our customers will leave it at just the default time because that's normally after their work hours. You can set it because this is going to be your local time. If you can relate your time to, say, 4 o'clock Eastern, that's normally when we will at least have a catalog published if we're going to have one for that day. And being that we're getting more and more applications, we tend to publish just about every day, 3 to 5 times a week, maybe. So we'll have those things publishing out there. So when we start running this publishing service sync, we're going to be checking back with Patch My PC to see if there's any new catalogs, bringing in that data, checking to see if we've got some items selected out there. If we have those items selected, we'll then start pulling in those bits and then downloading those files and then uploading them into your environments. Now, once we get all that done, we're also going to see that we've got those checkboxes. Remember these checkboxes that we did over here on our database scan? We're going to look for those as well. We'll start running that, pulling in those items as well. So once we get all that done, we're going to start publishing these guys. Let me make sure I did it again. We'll start publishing things over into Config Manager, over into Wsus first. Once things get into Wsus, we're going to be creating those applications over into Config Manager Console. Once those two things are done, we're going to start uploading those chunks into Azure if you have that set up. And then because I have this trigger set, I'm going to be triggering my software update point sync. And then once I do that, then I'll bring those items from Wsus back over into Config Manager, where it can then start looking at your client. Your clients can do their summarization, start checking back with Wsus to see if there's anything that they need to be required for, and kind of go on from there. And then you can do your deployments from there. So it makes it really easy. It's that whole process to where it's going. So as things are going, how do you know what's happening? Do you wait for just errors or somebody start screaming? Well, I wouldn't recommend that, but we give you the ability to set up alerts. The alerts are there. You can set up an email alert. You can set up a Teams notification. We even have it where you can set up Slack notification. The Teams you can set up to go per product. If you have a lot of products, that can get real chatty, so you can uncheck this box down at the bottom. The email notifications are basically, all of these will have, whether it's a CVE associated with that update, are there any release notes? Are there any successes? Are there any failures with that publication coming from Patch My PC? if there are failures, most of the time we'll have KBs on how to fix those failures. So just keep that in mind. We try to be proactive, try to give you all that information to help you stay up and running to where you're not having to babysit this all the time. And you can truly have a set and forget type of program to where you're just waiting on alert to go and start testing your process. I mean, start testing all your products coming out there and just rolling from there. Now, once this is set, we'll wait just a few minutes for this to roll through, but in our demo lab, but we'll look at a few other things in here real quick. So on our advanced tab, now within here, we can go in here and take a look. On the advanced tab, we have some options that you might want to set. One of our biggies is going to be our local content. Now in here, there are some applications that we need to have the bits downloaded. And it's because they're either behind a paywall, or it's a download format, or it's a specific EULA you have to accept and tell them you're going to pay for it, and then you can download the bits. So they're the normals. Bluebeam is one of those. Cisco's a biggie. Any of those AnyConnect family, some of the Mimecast, TeamViewer, they're behind paywalls. Oracle, we all know the fun Oracle's been doing the past couple of years to where we're having to, go out, download the bits, and then pay for it. So it's just one of those things that we have to do in there. All right, so we've got that set. And then there's a few other things that we can do in here. There's some slight customizations for logging that we can do. Now, on the config manager side of things, we do have some reports. I can kind of show you those when we get done here. But the biggest one that I like showing is how to back it up and how to restore it. Now, oftentimes you're always, just running and you say, okay, well, I've got backups running. Well, this is where you can go and verify it. We can come in here. We can go into our publishing service location, and we can go into our backup folder. Now, within here, it's hard to see because it's blurry on that screen, but we can also see that we've got a number of things sitting out here to where we can see that we've already backed up a lot of times today. So I can easily restore back to the last known good just by clicking whichever one that I know that I didn't create an error on. So I can go back there really easy. So we're going to keep 50 of those copies. We're going to have those out there to where you can easily restore. And then you can even have the most current one put out on a share somewhere. So it makes that really easy. Now, a neat little tool, especially if you have multiple people out doing the same task. Now, this is, like I said, our publisher's running as a single instance, only one person logging on at a time. So if somebody else were to log into that server session and want to make a change, maybe you could come in here and you'd say, let's just export this out there to where I can see exactly what has been created. And then I can also go in there and I can make sure I'm not going to overwrite what somebody. Now, if you were to open this up in something besides Notepad++, it would probably show a little bit better, but you can also see that here's my updates, here's my applications, here's my Entune apps, and here's my Entune updates, and then all of my right-click options that I'm enabling for that as well. So you can go and make sure you're not going to overstep or step on anybody's toes by creating another application or another setting in there as well. So just some helpful bits there. Now, one last thing we can talk about, and then we'll come back to a little hyperlink at the bottom of the Advanced tab, is looking at the About tab. Now, it's normally About tab is just telling you about the program, all the different features in there, but we have a nice little tool. We can restart the service from here. We're going to automatically update our publishing service for you. So we can really make that easier to have the most stable version out there. You could come in and install preview builds if you like living on the bleeding edge. I don't recommend it. I would really stay on the current path there, but you do have the ability to do that. Now we can also come in there and request for new software. It takes you out to our ideas page very easily. Now we can also come in here and put in a support case. Very helpful bits. We'll jump on that call. More than likely, you may talk with me or Adam or Andrew or Priscilla or any of our engineers out there, and we can really help out, try to fix these issues. All right, so we'll come in there real quick and let's take a look at our Advanced tab. We'll come back over here, and down at the very bottom, there's a nice little hyperlink. What this does is takes us back over to the Updates tab, opens up the options, and then within here, we can see some of the things that we can do. They're more Wsus related. We could trigger a subsync, both full. We could do Delta if we wanted to. We can also verify that we've got our product enabled under our config manager or under our software update point components out there, and make sure that we've got that set. Now we can also go in there, we can change up the way our updates are republished. We can even go in there and we can look at and do some Wsus maintenance. These are just normal things that we can do in here. Our biggest thing is coming in here and using this little wizard. Now this little wizard is looking into my Wsus for any third-party catalogs that have been published. Not just Patch My PC. It will show if you've done any of those HP ones or any of the ones from maybe another company. They would show up in here, and you could go and decline those or do whatever you wanted to with them. But this is the one we're just concerned with, the Patch My PC ones. So you can come in here and you can select just to see the Patch My PC ones, and that's all it will pull up. So you can come in here and we can dig into a little bit deeper detail on each one of these. So just for an example, let's look at Chrome. If we need to do some troubleshooting, we can go and say, well, here's my applicability rules. This is why it should be installed or why it shouldn't be installed on a device. So we could look at that. And if I wanted to, I could come in here and look at the details for that specific application. So within here, we get a lot of information out there. So from in here, we can come in and we can go and just look at some of these guys. Now, from in here, we can also go in and see that we've got a PowerShell script. That one we added is showing in here, and even show some information that normally you just don't ever get to see as far as when you're creating those updates. So we've got a log, like log retention and things like that. But the interesting fact here is these top two lines, these top two sections here. All this information gets carried over into Config Manager with us. So this is going to be easy to find over in the Config Manager console. So let's go over there and take a look. Go ahead and close these guys. And we'll go ahead and hit cancel. Let's see what we've got publishing so far. So we do have some things getting created. It's not totally finished yet, but we can see here's some of our notifications that we've got out there. And we can see that we've got a few of these guys listed in here. And we can see that, here's some of our applications that we've created. We've got our naming convention in there. We'll come up to our applications, or here we go, our Config Manager apps. We can see we got clickable release notes. We even have a clickable CVEs in here. So it's just a number of things. And then we even have it in the email format. We'll come back over here. We'll look at this guy. Where are we? There we go. Flying around there. Don't have that created as of yet. Here in a minute. There we go. Just created. And we can see, of course, it's kind of a big format there, but we'll take a look at it. All right. We'll see all this. And we can see kind of it's in still the same format. Everything's kind of structured there. Makes it really nice to see. All right, now let's go see. Since that got finished, we can see that we have now created our applications. Here's all our apps in Entune. We can come over here and look in our Config Manager console. Let me minimize this guy. We'll pull over Config Manager. We can see these guys showing up in here now. So we'll come up here. We'll go and refresh or go down to my software updates. And then in here, I now have my application updates sitting out there. And we want to just take a look at this. Now, normally, if you're looking in your all software updates, you don't have any white space. Makes it really hard to find things. So we want to just do our search real quick. We can go in there and look for our vendor being Patch My PC. And then from there, we can go in here and we can just do a quick search. And from in here, we can go in and we can say, well, let's just go look for that specific one I copied the CVE for. And if I wanted to, I can find that it's related to that specific Google. And we can come in there and look at our properties. So within here, I can also see that there is that information that I copied over from Wsus. So just some helpful bits there. We also have those applications that we created also. And remember, we mirrored all those. So we've got our applications sitting out there. These in their own little folder, or ones under our Patch My PC folder there. So we've got a number of things. So let's take a look at these real quick, and then we'll hop over to our clients here in just a moment. All right, we'll go in here and take a look. We've got some information, basically the file name and version. Here's the version of the publisher that we created. Here's one of those first little options that we set by default. Software Center, that information we could have changed up in here. Browsers, our user category. We had our company-wide category over here. We can come over here and let's take a look real quick. We can go over and see the application itself, and then we'll see some of the information on the deployment type. We'll come in here and see that we've got the name set there. We can go look at our programs. We have our installer, our uninstaller, even repair. And here's the fun part. You don't have to do a detection method. We do it for you. We do all this work for you so you don't have to. So we've got a lot of logic we built in there to see whether or not it's installed. So just some helpful bits there. You could even change that user experience. Remember, I showed you that. You could have that changed. And every time you're making a change in the publisher, any new update or new applications coming out, it's going to stay with that as it's getting created there. So just keep that in mind. Now, one last thing that I want to show. Let me go ahead and kick off this little PowerShell script to go ahead and deploy these guys out to my demo client. But while we're doing that, I want to bring up this other little tool that's very similar to the one that we had on the update on the Entune side of things. So it's this little utility that we've got built in here. And this little guy is an easy way to find things that you've got nested in folders. It's because it's pulling up everything that's in Config Manager that was created by Patch My PC, all in one single pane there. So maybe I want to go in and it'll say, hey, let's get rid of the exe version. So we can easily go out, find it without having to dig into each folder, and we'll just say, let's just go ahead and delete it and get rid of that. And once we do that, it's also going to delete the content. So we can come in there, we can take a look, we'll refresh this guy. Now it's gone. So it makes it really easy to do some management in there as well. Now let's do this. Let me go ahead and start my one more guy there, and we'll go ahead and start my other little demo machine. We'll go ahead and start this guy. And then once we get through with our Config Manager side of things, we'll be ready for our Entune side of things there as well. So jump in here real quick. All right, while that's pulling up there, I'm going to cancel out of that. That a little bit smaller. All right, so now we've got basically in the Config Manager world, of course, we're looking at our Software Center out on our client. We can see a few things in here. Now I've got a few things pulled up. So now we've got our applications that we've deployed out there, less the one we deleted. We've also got our application updates ready to go. We've got some applications running. So we can see which versions of these guys we've got installed. We'll go ahead and clean up, make this a little bit easier to see. So we've got Google, we've got Notepad++. So let's start our update process. So we'll go ahead and kick this guy off. Now you remember me saying that everything that we do gets contained within the update file that's on the device or the application that's installed on the device. And let me show you where that is. So once we start kicking this off, we're going to go look in our logs and we're going to see that we're going to create an additional log in there called the Patch My PC script runner log. That's our scripting engine. We can see we've got a lot of files. Matter of fact, that specific file there is this specific pop-up. And we can see that we're triggering that one. But let's go look at this guy real quick. All right, so we'll come in here real quick and we'll see that we've got all these guys set here. And then we can come in there and we can look in our Ccm Cache and we can see this as well. And Jesse, that is coming up next. I'm going to show you how to do that, how the Entune piece there as well. I just saw that pop up. So that's coming up next. I'll be able to show you how to do this in there. So it's basically working in both environments. So we've got everything listed in here. Here's some of the stuff within Config Manager, kind of show you how these things work there. Here's our script runner. Here's a little pop up here. And here's our install file. So if I wanted to, we can go ahead and kick this guy off. It kills the process and installs. And then you can just follow along. It's doing all the different actions that we've called it to do. And then it's going to delete the desktop shortcut. Now, if we came over to our Entune side of things, and we've got some things assigned out there in Entune, we can take a look at these guys real quick. And then we can come in here. We'll start this guy. And then what we can do is come over here. Once that guy gets started, we'll let the process kick on. Let me show you one more thing in the Config Manager side of things to really show this part before, while policy is kicking on the other one. Now, the interesting thing is whenever you're doing stuff for an application, of course, what we have to have, the detection script. Well, we log that. We'll show you where we keep that information in case you need to verify that it has been installed. So we'll just kick off an install here real quick. We've got our 7-zip. So we'll just start this one. We'll start the install. And then what we can do from in here is just watch it and follow along as it's going to run through its checks and balances to see if it needs to be installed or not. And then from there, we can kind of go along in there. All right, so here's our detection script, and we can kind of watch some of the logic that we're going to use to see whether or not it's installed. Makes that really easy. All right, we got that, and then we'll look at this guy. Well, here we go. We got a few things popped up in here. So here we go. Let's take a look at this. So we've got some applications, but what is that? That is an update that's coming down there. So let's just take a look real quick. We'll delete that guy. We'll come over here. Let's look at our logs real quick. So within here, we've got our software update detection script. So we're seeing that there is a assignment out there for this application to be pushed out, and it's detecting and it's not finding that specific version. Then we also have our requirement rule that runs along with those updates, and it says, well, there is a requirement. Is that version of Notepad Plus installed? No, it's not. Okay, well, that's good. Let's go ahead and then push it out to it. So it's found it as being a required install. So we'll find it at true. So all we have to do at this point is go in. We can look in our log. We see those same files that we saw earlier, and we'll just go out and click close and apply. And now we finish the process. We go ahead and run through everything else. So all the things that we have right here that are running, and everything is installing for us. Makes that really easy to follow along. Now, just because we don't have Google assigned out there as an update, we can still update it. We can push it out. There's our application sitting out there. Maybe Google is one of those that you want to have assigned to everybody in your environment. Most companies might do that. Then you can go out there. We can push it as an application, and it was going to update what you've got out there. So it makes that really easy. So we can come out there. We can go and look at this. And then from within here, we can go in there and see that we had got another detection script there that runs. We'll come in there and we can see that here's our detection of things that's needing to be run. It didn't find that version. So now we're going to install it, and we're going to update this guy and let that guy go through. All right, we'll let this guy get finished, and then we'll hop back over on the server machine, and we will finish up there. All right, and one of the things I was doing, and Jesse, and see where you responded back, thanks for that. One things I was showing is basically how we can work in both environments, but also help move from, say, Config Manager over to Entune. So very simple to do, just moving over, doing copying, clicking buttons is really all it is just adding those different features that you may need in there. Very simply, as far as on the application side. On the infrastructure side, maybe a little bit difficult, but maybe a little bit more difficult than that. But in our environment, that's basically what you would need. Now, also one thing you can look at in here, we do create some additional logs. Remember, we enabled some of those other logs. Here's that Google log that it creates. We can go and see that guy has it creating in there. Just a few other things there as well. Okay, come back in here. It looks like that guy got installed, and we can just go verify it. And then we have the fun thing to where we can have it set to any kind of website that we had it. Look what we've got. Got our CloudManagement.Community on there and kind of look at that. So it makes it really easy to do some fun things like that. All right. So now we're back over here. We can talk a little bit, and we won't bore you too much with this, but we'll talk a few things about, our publisher. We offer multiple versions of our publisher itself. The biggest thing that we always try to strive is that our support is always included. Whether it's during a trial, whether it's during a subscription cycle, we pride ourselves in support. We're all admins that used to work in the environments, and we want to give that same support that we get there. So that's one of those things that we always strive to. We are worldwide now. We have engineers all in the U.S., over one in Canada. We have multiples over in the UK, over in Europe. And then we even have a guy down in Australia. You may know Mr. Ben Reeder down there, but I don't get to talk to him much because it's usually in his bedtime when I'm working, or should be his bedtime a lot of times when I'm working. So we can just kind of go from there. But we have always out there, we're just about a 24-hour a day shop. We're trying to get there to where we can provide all that. We're going to have a nice little support number that you can call that's going to be more of an international number before long. But one way to always get us is to come out to our support, open a support case, we can respond back to you. We try to get back to you within 2 hours. Sometimes it's even within 10 minutes if that's okay. And we try to get the problem resolved, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you're having a great experience using our product, for one, but then also that you could maybe relay that on to somebody else and just make your job easier with that as well. So just keep that in mind. Now, the different versions that we talked about today, whereas the Enterprise Plus, you can see that we have everything listed here. Our prices are out here. We try not to hide anything. We try to prevent all those, provide all those things out there. Yep, and webhook and download the firewall list. Yeah, yep, exactly. That is a big thing, Radu, as far as that goes. So one thing to look at as far as that, once you get in here, we have a lot of these things out here, and we do have minimum cost, but like I said before, all of the pricing has the support included there. So it makes that really, really easy to have in there as well. Now, as far as, getting into the finer bits of the setup and doing things as far as firewall lists, we do have a lot of things listed out on our list. But our biggest thing that I always like mentioning is coming in here and just knowing what all we're going to be publishing during a publication cycle. So like I said, we try to do it at least once a day. Sometimes it can be once a day, but for the most part, we're going to have some things out here, and we'll take a look at this guy. Now, here's our roadmap, or excuse me, not a roadmap, or a newsletter. Now, within our newsletter, we're going to let you know what all we're publishing. So it may be items that you don't have selected, but it may be things that you may want to select. You've been waiting on this version of Firefox before you start enabling. So we give the ability to find those in there. If there's a 0 day, this may come out, you get the newsletter out before you have your scan set to run and sync your publisher. So you could possibly go and do a manual sync and pull those in and start testing fairly early. So that's really a helpful bit for this little newsletter. The biggest thing is, say, our virus total scans. We don't host these binaries. We're always checking these to make sure they are up to date. So within there, we can come back in here and we can go into a little bit deeper dive as far as what we do to make sure these are secure before we start releasing these definitions out there. Now, we do go through and show you how we store the hash, how we're doing our virus total scans, and then also how we verify these guys during publications. But our biggest thing is showing our data flow. We do have the ability to come out there. Our publisher, if you're using it in a config manager environment, it's going to be installed on your Wsus server or the config manager box, whichever one that's living on. We can have that sitting there, or in Entune, we basically just have it on a separate box, and then we're going to communicate up to Entune from there, from the publisher. The publisher's communicating back and forth with definitions with Patch My PC, and then downloading the bits from the vendor's websites. We don't communicate with your clients at all. This is where we stop. So we don't have any communication with your clients from this point. All right. And then we do have a list of the firewalls, like Radu mentioned in there. We do have some things out there we can take a look at. So we have a list. It's really easy. I like using this in comparison with, say, what you have. We can download that list. And then if you had the publisher and you ran that database scan, say with this, and you can come in here, you can export that list out and compare it with what you have in your environment. And then just, you don't get those dirty looks when you hand that big list to your firewall team if you have it filtered out to just the things that you need to patch. All right. Well, cool. That is really about it. Let's go back and look at our facts page one more time. The biggest thing is just making sure that when you start looking at our product, is making sure that's the right fit. At the end of the day, we just want to make sure it's right fit for you and your environment. We feel so strongly in that we even offer a money back guarantee for 180 days. Once you purchase the product, if you are not happy with it, we will offer you that. But we haven't had anybody take us up on that yet, but we want to just let you know that we're wanting to make sure that this is the right fit for you. So just keep that in mind as you're starting doing that. So our sales team can give a non-obligational quote whenever you're ready. One of our engineers, we can hop on a call with you and do a setup, make sure it's set up exactly right, walk you through the whole process. And just remember, it's never one and done. We're always there to help out, do reviews, do Q&As. So just keep that in mind. But I really appreciate everybody's time today. I'm sorry that what we were looking at was so blurry, but hopefully it'll clean up a little bit whenever we can look at it directly from YouTube. So
Wes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you, guys.
That was really good.
Covered a lot of content there, which really appreciated. I've got one more question actually. So
Absolutely.
if you have if there's an application install error of some sort, and it's being pushed out through kind of Intune, where's the best place to troubleshoot it? Is it used through patch my PC kind of logs, or is it Intune? What's the kind of best?
Both. It's really all depending. If it's coming from, if it hasn't really started our install, then you would probably start looking in your Intune management logs. The management extension one is where I always try to start with Intune, start working with these logs itself. And then maybe in your agent executor or the Intune management extension there. But then we can start drilling in when it's starting to execute our things. Then we can start digging into the Patch My PC script runner log, which will throw a lot of those errors. So if it's truly started running, if it's gotten to the machine, then the assignment it's starting to run, that's where you'll start seeing a lot of those errors in there.
Cool. Great.
Yeah. And we provide a big list of those. It's pretty interesting. We have this out here. That's one thing that hopefully we'll be able to collect have a little tool to where we can collect logs on the client side of things, but collecting. If you go out and look at our website, basically things to help us. If you put in a support case, we have client-side logs. We try to list all those things where logs are located to where you may need to go and grab those bits for us. So we try to provide all that information for you too.
Cool. I mean, I half expected you to say that, to be honest, because Microsoft are just rubbish at allowing you to kind of review all that troubleshooting approach. So great. Virtual round of applause. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
That was brilliant.
Yep. Feel free to reach out to us. We can help out. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks very much. Thanks everyone for joining, and you'll no doubt see our next stream coming up. We'll publish that on the YouTube channel, and obviously there'll be more videos coming out. So please keep tuned to what we're producing. Thanks again.
Yeah, cool. Nice. Thanks, guys.